Welcome to Feisty Fridays. I am not sitting at my desk. No, look at I am, as you can tell, in a hotel room. This is the first edition of Feisty Fridays on the road, and I am in the capital of Canada, Ottawa. It's in a province called Ontario. And for those of you that follow me from all over the world, I am here for a conference in our nation's capital. But I don't really want to talk about that. What I really want to talk to you about is I want to talk to you about feedback. And I want to share my own experience a little bit with feedback because I and my imposter syndrome, which, yes, I have and still have, and it feels like something that I nurse all the time. I have learned over the years that not all feedback has been helpful, has been profitable, and has been what I needed to listen to in order to feel empowered and also to learn. Because there's a lot of reasons why we receive feedback. In fact, there's a lot of times where feedback is actually a threat. It's actually someone trying to incite conflict, someone trying to diminish us or devalue us, either because they want to be in leadership themselves or because they don't trust us or they don't respect us. And although those things may very well be because of our behavior that we need to take responsibility for, it's also very possible that the feedback you're receiving is coming from someone who has ill intent. In professional circles, I see this often. And usually it's because we're wrestling with our egos. The challenge that I have discovered is that taking every single bit of feedback and spinning on it, thinking about every way we can avoid ever having anyone say that about what we've said, what we've done, or how we've led, it actually can diminish our ability to make great decisions that are embedded in our own wisdom. And probably the worst thing about it is that it can cause us to make decisions reactively instead of intentionally. You know, intention is really important. Intention is the opportunity to take lessons learned and all of your wisdom and apply that to your decision making rubric, to the framework you're using to decide to go right or left. Just an example. It's really important for us to not just react. Now, there are times where reaction is important. Certainly, if you're deciding to walk across a street, it's important to react if you step onto the street and there's a car coming by just stepping back off of the street. That kind of reactivity in conversation is important. If you hurt someone's feelings and they come to you immediately in the moment and say, hey, that wasn't very nice, even if you didn't intend it, what's really important is don't tell them that, just apologize. Just apologize. The apology in that moment creates the space. And you don't need to worry about whether they know what your intent was or not. Your apologizing and saying nothing more will prove to them that that wasn't your intent. But if you spend a lot of your time adjusting yourself so that you can have others be happy with you, so they will never give you any negative feedback, I'll tell you what, you'll lose your own vision and your own purpose. And it's really important that you hold on to yours because your purpose and your vision is unique. It's unique to you. Doesn't mean that it shouldn't be checked, doesn't mean that it doesn't need feedback, just means that not all feedback may be helpful. So, last week in my newsletter, I shared with you my feedback filter. This is a hard earned filter because what I realize is that I did this really poorly. So, the first thing in the filter is I consider the source. What does that mean? I think about the person or the group. Are these individuals invested in my success, in the success of the collective, or do they just want to be heard? And you know what? Sometimes I give feedback to people and I'm giving it because I just want to be heard. So this is a normal behavior. And we often do this as professionals. So it's not that we devalue the person or discredit them. We just consider the source. Consider what the reason and the connection is for receiving the feedback. If this is from your team, if this is from people you trust, If this is from, where you actually have a lot of respect and you're receiving feedback from there, it's more credible, because that immediate thought about where is it coming from can be really helpful at telling us whether the intention is to help us get better. The second thing is to think about whether it aligns with your values, your vision, your goals. This is really important. I spent a lot of time in the not-for-profit world, and there were some organizations that I worked with that had very strong values and vision and goals that I did not agree with. They weren't my vision and values. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay for you to have your own. It's all right and very important for yours to be your own, for you to own them. And if you're on a trajectory with your own values and someone comes along and gives you feedback and says something like, you can't do that, that's not appropriate, that's not right, but you feel called to be a voice into a place where maybe they're just not comfortable hearing it, you want to stay on your values and vision. You want to stay aligned with your leadership style. If you're getting feedback that is pulling you away from your feedback, or excuse me, from your vision and values, what you need to do is balance that. Do you trust the source? Does this align with your values? I'll give you an example. I grew up in an incredibly religious environment. I'm no longer a religious person, but there are people in my family that believe decisions that I make are misaligned with their religion. And they make the assumption that I shouldn't make those decisions because I'm family, because I grew up with them, because I'm supposed to be in alignment with their values. No, I get to choose that for myself. So feedback from them, although I'm happy to hear it, in reality, because of the source and because of no longer aligning with their values, my decisions need to sit also outside of a lot of their feedback. The next one is weigh the evidence. And what evidence? Well, is this a pattern? Have you heard the same feedback from multiple places across multiple sectors? Because if you're hearing it over and over again, you may have a blind spot. And I certainly did, and I will in the future. So weighing the evidence is asking yourself, is this new information or is this something that I have heard before? Because if you've heard it before, then you need to do some critical thinking about your behavior and the effect you're having. And then finally, the last part of this filter is decide what to keep. Decide what portion of this is really valuable for you to integrate. And integration takes time. What we never want to do is react immediately with feedback, especially in a professional environment. If someone says to you, hey, you use this word and it offends me, you know what? Immediately we can say, I'm so sorry. And then after some time has passed, perhaps after they then speak, we can ask for some context, get a little bit more perspective on what that word means to them, and then integrate using that word. A good example, I do not use the term stakeholder anymore. And I'm a project manager. It's a space I live in, but I find that term to not accurately describe the people on the project that I care about, because that term and its colonial roots can be offensive to some people. So I just say interest holder. It's a switch. I didn't do it on the first day. It took time. It took integration. And there were many times where I would continue to say the other word, and I will in the future. But I can create space for that, and I can try to use this new term, interest holder, because it's a reflection of something I've decided to keep. It was a feedback moment in my professional career that I decided, after a lot of critical thinking and observation and weighing the evidence, that was a change that I wanted to make. I act and use that word on purpose. And that's the goal here. Feedback should be about increasing our leadership acumen, in actually making us better leaders, not in beating us down. So, don't ignore it when somebody tells you some hard truth about yourself. You just need to protect your own leadership vantage point so that you don't get that, almost like whiplash where somebody says something and immediately you change exactly what you've said. And that can create an opportunity for people to not trust or respect you as well. You know, you can be open to learning without being available for every opinion. That's strength. That filtering is leadership. And this week I've been asking myself, is this all helping me grow in the direction I want to go in? And the answer for me is not always yes. But when it is, I keep going. Overall, I want to continue to maintain my feistiness, which means not being bold and telling everyone how it is, listening, receiving feedback, weighing it, using critical thinking skills, and at the same time, allowing it to improve me as a leader. So that's a little bit of my thinking process this week. Like I said, I'm in Ottawa. I'm actually about to speak very shortly. It's great to be able to sit down and lay down some feisty truths, even on a Friday in a different city away from my desk. So thanks once again for sharing with me. I'd love your comments and your perspective if you have anything to share. Thank you once again, as always, for listening. And it's me, the Feisty PM, on a Friday.